Hello everyone. Previously we have discussed the what is cataract, its epidemiology of cataract, the Vision 2020, the classifications and the symptoms and signs of cataract. Today we'll discuss about cataract surgeries. I am Dr. Priyanka Tumma, Assistant Professor, Dr. VM Government Medical College, Solapur. Before starting the modern day phacoemulsification, we should always know about the history of cataract. That is, how did the surgical procedure evolve? That is, first in India, Sushruta in 600 BC first practiced the era of couching, and it soon became popular in Egypt, Greek, Romans, and medieval Europes. Couching is a technique where a hole is made somewhere in the posterior to the corneoscleral junction, and with the help of a needle, the cataractous lens is pushed inferiorly. With In this technique, bilaterally blind patient used to get some useful vision. So it had some miraculous results. So it was widely popular during those days till the era of 1800. After the era of couching came the early extracapsular cataract extraction. That is from 1745 to 1877 years it was practiced. Devil in 1745 made the first attempt to remove the cataract rather than displacing it inside the eye. He performed a limbal section in the lower half of the eye with triangular knife and enlarged this incision either with scissors or a blunt ended knife. The corneal flap was lifted, the capsule incised, and the cataract was extracted. Von Graffe in 1865 made many technical improvements which increased the surgical outcome, and he designed a Graffe cataract knife, made the section in the superior limbus, and advocated the iridectomy to prevent pupillary block glaucoma. As these extracapsular cataract extraction techniques induced increased incidence of lens matter induced inflammation, pupillary membrane formation, and the rise of IOP following the surgery. Efforts started to remove the lens in its entirety. This then came the era of intracapsular cataract extraction, that is from 1877 to 1980, in which the lens was removed in toto. Samuel Sharp was the first surgeon to advocate intracapsular cataract extraction. There are many established techniques of intracapsular cataract extraction. First was the Smith Indian expression technique, that is in 1910 it was practiced. The second is the capsule forceps method. The third is the Barker's recipic method of ICCE. Fourth is the cryo extraction method. Fifth, wire vectors can be used. Intracapsular cataract extraction still has a place in today's surgical environment, but that place is restricted mainly to the eyes with dislocated or subluxated crystalline lenses. Now is the era of modern extracapsular cataract extraction. The extracapsular cataract extraction techniques have improved greatly with the availability of newer instruments, uses of microscope, better technique of anterior capsulotomy, and improved infusion aspiration modalities. The different techniques of ECC which has evolved and established over years are the planned modern ECCE procedure. The second is the phacoemulsification, and the latest is the manual small incision cataract surgery. Treatment of cataract can be discussed under following headings. Spectacle correction, it can be given in early stages of cataract because of the refractive change in the lens and the patient's condition is not surgically fit. The second is the better lighting. The better lighting can be used in cases of peripheral cortical cataract. It causes constriction of the pupil and clearance of the pathway and increase in the visual acuity of the eye. The most definitive treatment or the cure we can say is cataract surgery. Indications for cataract surgery or work or lifestyle affected due to glare caused by the bright light. Sometimes due to cataract there can be double vision due to intraocular accumulation of water content, and there is decreased visual acuity. Other indications are the uniocular decreased visual acuities, and it can be also done when the other vision threatening eye diseases are present in eye like diabetic retinopathy or macular degeneration. Presently, the intracapsular cataract extraction is absolute and only indicated in subluxated or dislocated lenses. Before starting any cataract surgery, the essential points to be revised are the pupil should be fully dilated, there should be adequate anesthesia. For ICCE, peribulbar block anesthesia needs to be administered and the intraocular pressure should be lowered. It can be lowered pharmacologically. The steps of ICCE are: first, a superior rectus bridal suture is passed, the conjunctival flap is made, and hemostasis is achieved by wet field or a heat cautery. Then a partial thickness groove is made about 2/3 depth of the anterior limbal area from 930 to 230 with the help of a razor blade knife. Then the anterior chamber is filled with is opened with a razor blade knife or with 3.2 mm keratome. A peripheral iridectomy is performed by using iris forceps, and the delivery of the lens can be done by Smith-Indian method or the cryo extraction method, the capsule forceps method or the Viovectis method. Then the anterior chamber is formed, and after that implantation of the anterior chamber lens, that is ACIOL. For that the pupil is constricted by injecting a miotic into the anterior chamber, and then the lens is placed into the anterior chamber. The closure of the incision is done with 5 to 7 interrupted sutures. Now, this technique is largely been replaced by extracapsular cataract extraction. Extracapsular cataract extraction, the early steps of the cataract surgery are the same as the ICC till the formation of corneoscleral tunnel and entry into the anterior chamber. After that, there is injection of the viscoelastic substance into the anterior chamber, which causes formation of the anterior chamber. Then we can proceed on to make anterior capsulotomy. Anterior capsulotomy can be made through can opener technique or the linear capsulotomy technique or the continuous curvilinear capsulorhexis technique. And the hydrodissection is done, that is a balanced salt solution is injected under the peripheral part of anterior capsule, which separates the corticonuclear mass from the capsule. Then the removal of nucleus, the nucleus is prolapsed into the anterior chamber either by rotating with the same hydrodissection cannula or with the help of Sinskey hook after injecting viscoelastic substance into the anterior chamber. There are two methods of nucleus delivery, that is pressure and counter pressure method, and the other is the irrigating wire vectors technique. Then the removal of the cortex is done and polishing of the posterior capsule is done, and the non-foldable PMMA IOL is placed into the capsular bag. The closure incision is done by 5 to 7 interrupted or continuous 10-0 nylon sutures. The remaining viscoelastic substance is removed and the conjunctival flap is closed. It is done in hard and too large cataracts where the lens cannot be emulsified by the ultrasound. The first, the anterior capsulotomy can be done by a can opener technique. Second, there is a completion of the incision shown. Third is expression of the nucleus by the pressure and counter pressure method. Fourth, cortical cleanup is done. While cortical cleanup, care should be taken not to aspirate the posterior capsule accidentally, and after that placement of the posterior chamber intraocular lens, that is non-foldable IOL PMMA lens, can be placed into the bag, and then the closure of the corneal incision by 10-0 nylon interrupted suture or continuous sutures can be done. Now, we will look into the difference between the intracapsular cataract extraction and extracapsular cataract extraction. Intracapsular cataract extraction cannot be done before 40 years of age, and extracapsular cataract extraction can be performed at any age. In intracapsular cataract extraction, posterior chamber IOLs cannot be implanted. Anterior chamber IOL can be placed, or the iris claw lenses can be placed. In extracapsular cataract extraction, posterior chamber IOLs can be implanted. In ICCE, post-operative vitreous related problems are more, such as herniation in the anterior chamber, pupillary block and vitreous touch syndrome associated are not seen after extracapsular cataract extraction. The incidence of post-operative complications such as endophthalmitis, macular edema and retinal detachment is much less after extracapsular cataract extraction as compared to that of intracapsular cataract extraction. Obviously, the incision taken in intracapsular cataract extraction is more, so the amount of post-operative astigmatism is more in intracapsular cataract extraction. The incidence of secondary rubeosis in diabetes is reduced after extracapsular cataract extraction. Planned extracapsular cataract extraction is largely being replaced by small incision cataract surgery and phacoemulsification techniques. The indications of small incision cataract surgery are the mass surgeries can be performed in high volume setups to reduce the cost and time of surgery and to cope up with the problem of cataract backlog. The second is the non-availability of the phacoemulsification, that is when the surgeon is untrained or the patient cannot afford or a phaco machine is out of order. The third is the contraindication to the phacoemulsification cataract surgery in patients like ultra hard cataract, borderline corneal endothelial status. In this picture, we can see placement of the bridal suture. in which the superior rectus is grasped using a strong tooth forceps about 10 mm away, and 3/0 silk suture is passed below it with the help of half curved cutting needle. The placement of the bridle suture is especially important in manual SICS, where in addition to fixation of the globe, it also provides a counter traction force during delivery of the nucleus and epinucleus. When SICS is performed by the temporal approach, the bridle suture is placed in the tendon of lateral rectus muscle, and all the next steps of the surgery are done in a temporal quadrant. The placement of the bridle suture is not absolutely essential. Many surgeons perform the small incision cataract surgery without taking a bridle suture. This picture shows the making of the small fornix base conjunctival flap with the help of sharp tipped scissors along the limbus from 10 to 2 o'clock positions. The conjunctiva and the Tenon's capsule are dissected, separated from the underlying sclera and retracted to expose about 4 mm strip of sclera along the entire incision length. Hemostasis is achieved by applying gentle and adequate wet field cautery. After making the conjunctival flap, then the sclerocorneal tunnel incision is made. There are 3 components to the sclerocorneal tunnel incision. First is the external scleral incision, which is shown in this picture. The external scleral incision is done about 1/3 to half thickness scleral groove is made about 1.5 to 2 mm behind the limbus with the help of razor blade fragment or a 15 or 11 number surgical knife on a Bard Parker handle. The incision may vary from 5.5 to 7.5 depending upon the hardness of the nucleus. The configuration of the nucleus may be straight, frown, chevron or trapezoid. In this picture, the straight incision is made. The other types of incisions like the frown incision, chevron incision and trapezoid incision decreases the rate of surgically induced astigmatism if correctly done. And the sclerocorneal tunnel is made with the help of 2.8 mm crescent knife and should extend anteriorly about 1 to 1.5 mm into the clear cornea. The scleral tunnel should neither be superficial nor be too deep, but should be of optimum depth, that is blade should be just visible. The superficial flap is completed by if the flap is too superficial, it may cause complications like buttonholing. If the flap is too deep, it may cause premature entry into the anterior chamber. In this picture, you can see the making of scleral pockets. Scleral pockets may be dissected on either side to accommodate the nucleus in cases of hard and big nucleus. The scleral pockets are like pleats of trousers and not necessary in cases of soft cataract. To dissect the scleral pockets, the side edges of the crescent blade is advanced laterally with a tilt conforming to the contour of the corneal curvature. The side port entry is preferable to make from 2 mm, about 2 mm length and width in the clear cornea near the limbus with the help of 15 number MVR knife. Knife should be entered perpendicular to the tunnel. It should always be made before making the internal corneal incision. The uses of side port include many surgeons prefer to perform capsulorhexis through the side port. When the eye is hypotonous, viscoelastic can be injected through side port for smooth tunneling. It can be used for aspiration of the subincisional cortex, and at the end of surgery it can be used for reformation of the anterior chamber. Here in this picture you can see injection of dye into the anterior chamber. The tryptophan blue dye is used to stain the anterior capsule for easy identification in cases of cataract like mature or hypomature cataract where you can't visualize the red glow. Some surgeons feel more comfortable with the use of dye even in immature cataracts. The uses of tryptophan blue dye is safe without any side effects. Endocyanin green dye can also be used, but it is comparatively expensive. A moderate size air bubble is placed in the anterior chamber to prevent the corneal endothelium from staining, and a small amount of dye is injected below the air bubble using 26 gauge cannula. Then soon it is washed by injecting a sufficient amount of balanced salt solution into the anterior chamber. Then the anterior chamber is filled with the viscoelastic substance and the air bubble is removed completely. The anterior capsulotomy can be done through various techniques like the can opener capsulotomy and the linear capsulotomy, and third is a continuous curvilinear capsulorhexis. In this picture you can see a continuous curvilinear capsulorhexis. It can either be done through cystitome method or by the use of forceps. In cystitome, 26 gauge needle is bent and a capsulorhexis is made about 5.5 mm to 6 mm capsulorhexis is made in small incision cataract surgery. Internal corneal incision is made with the help of 2.8 to 3.2 mm angled keratome. The heel of the keratome is raised until the blade becomes parallel to the iris plane, resulting in dimple of the corneal surface. The keratome is then advanced anteriorly in the same plane until the anterior chamber is entered, and the internal wound is visualized as a straight line. During extension, care should be taken to keep it in the same plane. Any tilt or too much backward cutting may result in smiling of round shaped or S shaped incision, which may not be self sealing. So, the keratome entry is made while moving forward, so that cuts in the descendant membrane are uniform and in one line. Before nuclear prolapse, for a softer cataracts, hydro procedures are done, like the hydrodissection procedure, where the separation of the conuclear mass from the capsule with the help of fluid wave. Then it helps in nucleus rotation and hydrates the peripheral cortex, so the nucleus can be easily prolapsed into the anterior chamber. There is no need of hydrodissection in cases of mature cataract. The nucleus can be prolapsed into the anterior chamber with the help of hydroprolapsing method or with the help of Sinskey hook. It is completely brought into the anterior chamber. In small incision cataract surgery, the nucleus can be extracted by various methods. The first is the irrigating Vectis method, second is the Blumenthal technique, third is the phaco sandwich technique, fourth is the fish hook technique, and fifth is the phacosection technique. Here you can see the use of a wire Vectis to prolapse or extract the nucleus from the anterior chamber. Here the cortical washup is done with a Simcoe's cannula. It is a coaxial type of irrigation aspiration technique where there is low inflow and low outflow. A thorough cleanup of the cortical debris is important for good IOL centration and avoiding the complications like post-operative iritis, cystoid macular edema, after cataract formation and post-operative glaucoma. The choice of IOL placement depends upon the incision size, that is non-foldable IOL like the PMMA IOL with 6 mm optic size is chosen mostly since the incision size is between 6 and 7 mm. The phaco profile PMMA IOL with 5 or 5.25 mm optic size is used when the incision size can be reduced to 5.5 mm in soft cataracts or when using phaco-fracture technique of nucleus extraction. Third is the foldable IOL is used where the incision is less than 5 mm, that is in phaco-fragmentation technique. In SICS, when the corneoscleral tunnel is made, it is usually self-sealing. So, for the closure of the wound, only the hydration of the side port entry is done, which causes formation of the anterior chamber and seals the corneoscleral tunnel. And then the conjunctival flap is closed and reposited at the end of surgery and secured by the help of wet field cautery. Phacoemulsification technique is widely performed these days. It was introduced by Charles Kellman in 1948 but was accepted in the year 1967. He had an idea after visiting a dentist where he found an ultrasonic device being used to help remove plaque and debris from there. The phacoemulsification basically acts through a hollow 1 mm titanium needle which vibrates by piezoelectric crystals at an ultrasonic speed of 40,000 times a second and fragments the nucleus of the cataractous lens and then emulsifies these fragments. There was early reluctance to accept phacoemulsification mainly because of the higher risk of complications, especially posterior capsular ruptures and the damage to the corneal endothelium due to proximity to the phaco needle. The second is the necessity to enlarge the incision after completion of the procedure to accommodate the large sized PMMA intraocular lens. Now, phacoemulsification procedure is widely done because there are ophthalmic viscoelastic devices which revolutionize the cataract surgery. The commercially available OVDs used to protect the endothelium are the Helion, a preparation of sodium hyaluronate. Subsequently, many OVDs were developed. Thomas Mosaco developed and implanted the first foldable IOL design manufactured from hydrophobic and hydrophilic acrylics as well as silicon biomaterials. The foldable intraocular lens can be placed through a small 3 mm incision. There was introduction of the continuous curvilinear capsulorhexis by the Neuhann from Germany and Gimbel from Canada in 1986 and has gone a long way in refining the technique of phacoemulsification and reducing the complications. There were many refinements in the quality of phacoemulsification machines, especially the solid state electronic control mechanism, making them surgeon friendly, have encouraged even the average surgeon to shift to phacoemulsification. The phaco machine comes in variations and has different models. Basically, each machine functions on the same principle and consists of 3 base parts. That is, first is the console, second has a hand piece, Third is the foot pedal. The console consists of the phaco power delivery system and the irrigation aspiration system. The handpiece machine is of two types, that is phaco handpiece and irrigation aspiration handpiece. The phaco handpiece, also known as ultrasonic handpiece, and this allows the breaking of the nucleus of the crystalline lens into fragments and aspirating them from the eye. The phaco handpiece generates phaco power, so called the ultrasonic power, by piezoelectric crystal present in the handpiece. The piezoelectric crystal converts the electrical energy into mechanical vibrations, which are transmitted to the phaco tip. The foot pedal has 4 positions, which can be achieved by pressing the pedal down. The first position is the resting position, with foot pedal being at the full upright position. In this position, no function of phaco machine is performed. The second is the position 1, that is irrigation mode. In this position, the plunger slides away from tubing and the irrigation becomes on. There is no gradient in this step and irrigation is either switched on or off. In position 2, irrigation aspiration mode. This position remains during the excursion of pedal between the position or the dentation 1 to 2. At this position, after the first dentation, the pump head begins to rotate and irrigation aspiration occurs simultaneously. In position 3, after the second dentation, it is considered as position 3. The start of position 3 of the foot pedal represents the point at which, in addition to irrigation aspiration, ultrasonic power becomes active. Therefore, the position 3 is called irrigation aspiration phaco mode. Now, we will see the steps of phaco emulsification. Here in this picture, you can see 2 side port entries being made. One for the making of continuous curvilinear capsular axis with the help of cystitome or the forceps can be made. The other to place the instruments like Sinskey to the other side port, which can help in manipulation of the nucleus during phaco emulsification. The phaco wound construction can be done through various types, like the sclerocorneal tunnel incision can be made, a limbal corneal tunnel incision can be made, or a clear corneal tunnel incision can be made. Sclerocorneal tunnel is usually preferred when non-foldable PMMA IOL is to be implanted. The clear corneal tunnel incision has various advantages, like there is no need to make a conjunctival flap, there is no need of cautery, and there is no bleeding while extending the incision, which can be performed under topical anesthesia and takes less time. There is instrumental manipulation is easy. There is no distortion of the cornea with phaco handpiece and no compromisation in the view of intraocular structures. The technique of clear corneal incisions are of 3 types, that is triplanar, biplanar, or a uniplanar clear corneal incision. The advantage of continuous curvilinear capsular axis in phaco emulsification is it helps in placing in the center of the anterior capsule and ensures safe endocapsular surgery and hydrodissection, as the axis is strong and resistant to stretching. This permits insertion of the posterior chamber IOL even in the events of posterior capsular tear and vitreous loss, allows quick removal of the cortical lens matter as there are no flaps, helps to centralize the IOL properly, and eliminates complications like uveitis, glaucoma, hyphema syndrome and pigment dispersion. Hydroresection procedure is done to remove the corticonuclear mass and to clear it from the capsule, and which allows in easy nuclear rotation. Nuclear rotation can be done with the help of Sinskey, and the Sinskey is buried into the nucleus and can be rotated twice or thrice to clear it from the capsule. Nucleotomy. The aim of nucleotomy and phacoemulsification is to remove the lens, that is 9 to 10 mm diameter of the lens, through a small incision, that is 2.8 to 3 mm, without damaging the adjacent structures. For that, the nucleus has to be fragmented into smaller pieces, which can be done through multiple techniques like the trench and divide technique, which can be done endocapsularly. The other techniques are the phaco-chop technique, which can be done by the horizontal chopping or the vertical chopping methods. The stop and chop techniques, or the chop and debulk technique, and the fourth is the choo-choo chop and flip phacoemulsification technique. In cases of soft cataract, the nucleus can be divided into four quadrants, but in cases of harder cataracts, it is important to divide the nucleus into many smaller fragments by making it about 3 or 8 nuclear fragments can be made, and every piece is emulsified into in the posterior chamber. Here it is shown a coaxial type of automated irrigation and aspiration method. A bimanual irrigation and aspiration method can also be used, or a manual irrigation aspiration method with the help of Simcoe's cannula can also be used for cortex aspiration. As there is a small incision about 3 mm, a foldable intraocular lens can be placed into the bag. Then the visco is aspirated to prevent the rise in the intraocular pressure post-operatively. Then the side port incisions are closed by the method of stromal hydration. If the main port wound is properly constructed, it is usually self-sealing and can be easily closed with the help of stromal hydration. Now, we will see the difference between the small incision cataract surgery and phacoemulsification. There is universal applicability, that is SICS can be performed in all types of cataracts from the nucleus grade soft to grades of 4 and 5 can be easily managed using SICS. The procedure can be safely performed in eyes having undergone retinal detachment surgeries, vitrectomy surgeries, or having traumatic cataracts. It can be combined with trabeculectomy procedures having coexisting glaucoma requiring surgery. It is said that phacoemulsification procedure is difficult in hard cataracts and in patients of corneal decompensations. SICS is much easier to learn as compared to phacoemulsification due to following reasons, like there is maneuverability through a larger incision is easy, can be completed even if the capsular axis is not intact. The procedure can be done even with scan opener technique of anterior capsulotomy, which is much easier. Hand and foot coordination and ambidextrosity, which are essential for phacoemulsification, is not necessary for manual SICS. The biggest advantage of SICS is it is not machine dependent and thus can be practiced anywhere without the basic instrument set. It causes less surgical complications like disastrous complications like nucleus drop can occur in phacoemulsification, and phaco machine related complications like corneal burns due to excessive heat generated by probe and iris chapping are not encountered in manual SICS. In manual SICS, the operating time is much less than the phacoemulsification. Phacoemulsification is especially hard in hard cataracts, the time taken is more, and SICS is ideal for mass surgery. SICS is also cost effective and useful in conversion during phacoemulsification. If the surgeon is trained in SICS, it is very useful when the conversion is required due to machine failure during phaco surgery. Disadvantages with small incision cataract surgery are postoperative hyphema may be noted sometimes, and surgically induced astigmatism is more as compared to phacoemulsification. I would like to say that the merits of phacoemulsification are the topical anesthesia may be sufficient for phacoemulsification in expert hands. The postoperative congestion is minimal in phacoemulsification. The advantages of phacoemulsification are the small incision over SICS. It can be performed through smaller 2.8 to 3.2 mm incisions. The less corneal complications can occur, as phacoemulsification can be performed in the posterior chamber without prolapsing the nucleus into the anterior chamber, thereby minimizing the risk of corneal complications. The most advantage of phacoemulsification is the visual rehabilitation is comparatively quicker in phacoemulsification as compared to manual SICS. We have seen previously that in phacoemulsification the incision can be small, about 2.8 to 3.2 mm, but in micro incision cataract surgery, which was coined and patented by George Elio in 2001, he constructed a wound, a technique through which a micro incision of about 1.5 mm or less can be made. But usually the micro incision cataract surgeries are performed through 1.8 to 2.2 mm incision. The need for near perfection is being now achieved with a femtosecond laser cataract surgery, which has been introduced in 2010 in United States and in India in 2011. In femtosecond laser uses an infrared beam of light to precisely separate the tissues through a process called photodisruption by generating pulses as short as 1/4 of a second. It has a wavelength of 1053 nanometers and is based upon the technology whereby focused laser pulses divide material at molecular level without transfer of heat or impact to the surrounding tissue. So far, femtosecond laser manuals are used for making capsulorhexis, lens fragmentation and primary and secondary corneal incisions. So, to conclude in this topic, we have learned the evolution of cataract surgery from the era of couching to the modern day micro incision cataract surgery, in which there are many developments can be micro incision cataract surgeries can be done due to better availability of ophthalmic viscosurgical devices like the Helion, which protects the endothelium and prevents the corneal decompensation after surgery. The micro incisions like 1.8 to 2.2 mm incisions, which are very helpful to place foldable IOL inside the posterior chamber. This helps to conclude the cataract surgery. Thank you very much for your patient listening.